anyone that knows me knows I might have perhaps an irreverent personality. Anybody that knows me might say I have a warped sense of humour. Anyone that knows me knows that I really don't try to offend people. Sometimes I do. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm the type of person who will receive the feedback and listen and learn from that. Well, this week I worked out that there's a big difference between the way we speak in Australia and the way people speak overseas. And I just thought I would share today in a very raw JT in the Raw, just some thoughts for you on how important it really is these days, because people have different values, people think differently, and it's important that we share how we operate and how we think with the people that we work with. Welcome to JT in the Raw, show 204, where I chew the thin on business, and after 31 years in business, I have just a few thins to chew, and I am still learning these thins every single day. So this week, I guess this is a learning experience for me. I'm doing a lot of work with people in the United States, and we in Australia have a very different sense of humour to many countries around the world. Me as a human being, I have a very different sense of humour. I also talk differently. I share things differently. And what that means is that it can be taken completely the wrong way. It means things can be taken out of context. And so our goal as leaders is threefold. And we're going to cover each one of those. Number one is we've got to be careful what we say. We've got to be careful about what we say. Number two is we've got to have a culture to gather feedback. And number three, I want to talk about a user manual. So as a leader, these are three important things that we need to understand, we need to accept, and we need to work with. We can't hide from these as a leader. So first up, everybody on the planet has different values. Everybody on the planet has different personal values. We always talk about corporate values, and we understand that there are corporate values in companies. We get that. But we also have our personal values. Now, if I don't know what your personal values are, I've got to guess them. And if you don't know my values, then you have to guess mine. So wouldn't it make sense, morning Alyssa, wouldn't it make sense that we would actually share each other's values in advance so that we could have a good relationship moving forward? So for example, if a new team member is joining your team, would it not be important for us as leaders to have an idea of what their personal values are? And to make sure those personal values, you understand them. They don't have to be the same as yours, but you understand them. And then on the other side, it's important that the employees understand what your personal values are. Because sometimes when we're communicating and we're trying to get a message across to people, our personal values and how we talk can be offensive. Anybody that knows me, as I said, I'm somebody who swears. I'm trying really hard to reduce the amount of swearing that I do at different times. And I really work hard on that. And I think I now swear a whole lot less than I did. But for me, it's very casual. It's very part of the vernacular, my makeup, if you will. So swearing for me is not offensive. For other people it is. So I have to be very careful when I'm speaking at conferences or when I'm speaking in general to people. I have to be careful of my language. The other day I was working on and this is where this whole show has in fact come from, is that I was running a meeting the other day and I used the phrase, the girls. Now, the people on the call were not young girls who were 18, 16, 14. These are mature aged women. And one of these mature aged women was offended that I actually called them girls. And I just said to her, I said, look, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's just the language that I would use. It's like I call the men boys and girls. I understand. We all have different values. So the number one thing that I need for you to take away from today's show is to accept that everybody has different values. And we just have to be careful what we say. And I'm learning, because I know how to piss people off really quickly by using language like I just did. I understand that. Do you understand that as a leader? Do you understand that the language that you use can in fact offend people? So you need to be careful. Number 2 point that I want to talk about today is that you do have a culture within your organization where people feel comfortable sharing with you that feedback. So if I didn't have in the meeting that I was running the culture to be able to receive the feedback from that individual on the way I was speaking or the language that I was using, then it becomes really awkward. It becomes disjointed. There's a lack of trust. There's a lack of a relationship. So what we have to do as leaders is we have to develop this culture to receive that feedback. First of all, that people feel comfortable giving it. Second of all, that the person that receives that feedback feels comfortable receiving it. The feedback that I got was not about me as a person. She wasn't saying I was a bad person. What she was saying was I was offended by the way you were thinking, or the way you were speaking, I should say. And so I accept that feedback. Do you as a leader accept that feedback? Do you work on that and work on how you can get better? The third point, I think this is the most critical of the 3, and it's this. Do you have a user manual for yourself? Do you have a user manual for yourself? So when a new team member comes on board and they start working for you, do they understand how you tick? Do they understand your sense of humor? Do they understand your personality style? Do they understand when you work best in the day and when you work worst in the day? Do they understand what pushes your buttons? Do they understand what doesn't push your buttons? Do they understand what motivates you? Do they understand what inspires you? Do they understand your leadership style? The greatest weakness that I've seen for me when I'm taking on a role as a leader or a facilitator in a new group is that I do not give enough of me and explain to people enough about me so that they understand where I'm coming from when I'm working with a brand new group of people. I need to do that. I need to give more of myself so that people have a better understanding. I need to share my user manual. Do you share your user manual? Do you have a user manual? More often than not, as leaders in our business, our staff learn over a period of time how we operate as leaders. Morning, Cameron. How are you down there in Canberra? More often than not, our team learn probably through making mistakes and having successes. So it's like this A/B testing, this worked, this didn't, in relation to working with us as leaders. And then they determine, oh, okay, now I understand the behavior of the leader. Now I understand how JT thinks. Now I understand how Julie thinks. Now I understand how Sean thinks. Because I've learnt that through doing different tests, A/B testing. Wouldn't it make more sense that when somebody joins your team, you sit down with them and you explain to them how you tick so that they understand how you tick, how to communicate with you, how to build the relationship with you. And when they have that in place, that bodes well for a strong relationship earlier in their time working with you. A strong relationship with you, with them. It builds trust. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is really opening you up as a leader to be extremely vulnerable with your team because you're now telling them how you think. And yes, you're going out on a limb. But the reality of going out on that limb is that you build that trust and you build that relationship, which enables that relationship to receive open, honest, and brutal feedback, which enables you to minimize the opportunity of pissing people off by what you say or how you react or what you do. Does that make sense? If that makes sense to you, this is fairly deep, I understand that. But if that makes sense to you, whether you're watching live or on replay, just hit me up with a love heart right now. Just hit that little love heart emoji. Does that make sense? Because this is critical to the success of us as leaders. We can save so much time in developing the relationships with our team members when our team members understand us, when our team members understand us. So I'm asking you, I'm imploring you that you will walk away after today's show and you'll spend some time putting together a user manual, a manual on how you think, what your values are, how to talk to you, what your personality style is. When in the day should people come to you with ideas, and when in the day should you not come with ideas? When is the day that part of the day your door is wide open and other days it is closed? What are the parameters for communicating with you? Do you like to be texted? Do you like to be emailed? Do you like to be communicated through some other mode? What is that you like? And when you have that user manual down pat, share it with your team. And part of the orientation of every new team member should be to understand you as the leader. Remember, when they understand you as a leader, you build that trust, which gives you the culture to open up for feedback. And when you have that culture for feedback, then you can ensure that if you do offend people, you can fix it and fix it fast. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning in to JTinTheRaw, show 204. Did you enjoy it? Did you get some thoughts out of this? Did it stimulate some thinking? And if it did, thank you for tuning in. If it didn't, well, I apologise. This is my experience this week, and it's my show, so I'm sharing my thoughts. If it didn't, I apologise. But if it did and you know anyone that could get value out of the show, please hit the share button or tag them in the comments below. Because I do believe this is a really critical part to being a leader, is helping people understand who you are, what makes you tick. And that makes the workplace even better. So, hope everybody has a cracking weekend, has a great week ahead. I'm going to be back same time next week, same bat place, same bat channel, talking about something else that's happened in my week, I am sure, because these are real experiences that are happening to me every single week that I like to share with you so that you don't make the same mistakes that I make. Simple as that. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.